All right, everybody, welcome, welcome. I am Peter. Happy to have you here. Uh, this is going to be a fun little study group, and we'll see what happens. Some of you sent me your charts. I have a handful. You'll see I got a handful of charts here ready to roll, and I mean that's going to be the majority of what we're looking at here is these practice charts. But So let's see. I don't have like any other PDFs really ready to show you. I'll just bring up my chart here. So you can see my chart. This is me, 3-5 sacral manifesting generator, cross the sleeping phoenix. I am I feel pretty good about saying I love transforming my tribe through being intimate and sharing all the empowering things that I've done for myself over the years and bringing them to you in my own flow, in my own rhythm, in my own timing. Deeper I get into my own design over 14 years in my experiment, I really notice very strongly that things work better, things flow better when I can do it my own way, in my own flow. Even if I don't have all the fancy glitter tools, if I'm just speaking from my heart, from my own experience, kind of in my own flow, then everything just sort of flows better. So that's what we're doing here. So everybody has a dilemma, right? There's so many ways that we can find these dilemmas inside of ourselves. We can, like I said, explore, discover, search for them, find them, recognize how they actually play out in our lives. As an analyst for 8 years or so, I've just started to notice certain patterns about tracking these dilemmas. And so, come on in, Brandy. Yeah, I've started to notice these patterns. And as a 3-5 profile, our 3-5s are here to help us understand how to do things a little better, to provide some practical solutions about how to do things better based on our own experience of, you know, kind of doing it wrong the first time or trial and erroring our way through life and martyring ourselves, throwing ourselves into our own experiential process. So in that, I've really found that you can learn about how things operate correctly when you see how they don't work correctly. um, I looking back at my life, I realized I learned a lot about that when I was a pathology teacher. I taught pathology at a local massage school here in Denver, Colorado. And I realized scientists, 3-5s can be very sciency, because they're experimental, seeing throwing yourself in this experimental process. Scientists learn how things work by realizing how they don't work. So also with the body, seeing how learning how the body works when we see how it doesn't work. So I'm just noticing that I'm really falling into my profile more and more by that's how I see life. I see what's not working, and this is a lot of times how we're taught to kind of understand designs. So, on that note, what I would say as a generality or overview here of what we're going to look at as we take a few minutes to go through charts. I have about an hour with you guys. Is we always tend to value, put the emphasis, put our awareness, our attention, our focus on everything that's the thing that's except the thing that's good for us. we we make decisions from the places that bring resistance. We make decisions from the places that result in frustration or bitterness or anger or disappointment. So there's ways we can look into the body graph to see that. Um, it's usually anything except where your strategy and authority is. So we're going to look. So as we go through some charts today, we'll look at the splits, the openness, maybe the bridges, the places where we're pulled to being conditioned. It's it's natural to be conditioned. It's normal to be conditioned. We're drawn to our openness. We we've got to be gentle on ourselves because we put this big rap, we put this big bad name on homogenization, and plenty of problems with homogenized living when we're trying to be unique. And yet, homogenization has served a purpose over time. Homogenization is basically saying there's one way to do this. There's one best way, one size fits all way to do things. And so that's what got us through the last 90,000 years. And it's kept our species alive, it's helped us survive. And now we're breaking out of homogenized living. And so, let's not be too hard on ourselves in the process. So let's just dive in and let's look at some charts and see what there is to see. And welcome to all of you who've jumped in. Brandy and Nancy, so good to see you guys. And Nathan, good to meet you, brother. All right, so let's see. Is Connor here? I don't think so. So we'll come back to that if he jumps in. Is it Kristen or Christine? I'm going to say
It's Christine.
Christine, okay.
Yes, hi.
Hey, welcome. Okay, so what we have here is a manifesting generator, a 5-1. Yeah, I deleted all the stuff here, so let's just talk it out. We have a manifesting generator, triple split. Let's see, left angle cross. I'm blanking. It's the cross. That's the cross that's after the left angle of the clarion. So
No, it is left angle. A left angle clarion one, just like Ra.
Okay, it is clarion. A left angle is clarion. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, so we're at a clarion here and an open G center. Your one open center. So that we're going to keep it simple here. I'm not going to dive, we're not going to go super deep into substructure stuff. We're going to look at what we can see just on the surface. What can inform us? I mean, we can go there too, but just even looking on the surface, here are the mechanics that I see. So Christine is a manifesting generator, right?
Yep.
Here, let's do this here. She's a manifesting generator, but there's so many kinds of manifesting generators. This a lot of times, in a lot of talks from Ra, when he talks about manifesting generators, he kind of just shuts it down a lot and just says, we're 3420. And oh my gosh, there are so many ways that you can manifest you can be a generator and manifest. I mean, the reason they're called manifesting generators as a 3420 is because you're manifesting is always referring to the throat. You're manifesting your generative energy. But any other configuration, or not any other, a lot of other configurations, such as this one, this is a split. So, and this is where her authority is. And yet she's got this manifesting power here. Manifestation refers to the throat, and we talk about being a manifester or manifesting generator, we're referring to a motor, not just the throat, but a motor to the throat. So Christine has, I said it right, has
Yep.
two motors
Uh-huh.
to the throat. So, I mean, there's lots of dilemmas going on here. We have two motors to the throat, this very strong, area of definition, which is it's going to want to take over in one way because, yeah, we want to get this energy out. These are motors. These are always operating. If that's what makes it a motor, is it's always going. There's always this willpower energy which needs to be expressed, or always this adrenalized energy which needs to get out. So you can't stop it. It's always going. So we have that. And then we have an emotional motor over here in the split, which is, I mean, this is the essence of who she is right here. We have an emotional generator. This is when I say the essence of who she is, I mean, this is where her strategy is, and this is where her authority is. So in a way, we could say this is the most important part of her.
And it's unconscious.
And it's unconscious. There we go. Which can be a double-edged thing because it's unconscious. We don't have conscious access to it, but it's also the body. So there's an element of once we drop into the body awareness, it almost becomes easier, but it's just a matter of living that out if enough times. And then we have this other split here. Obviously the mind, we love to we love the mind to take over, put emphasis on trying to figure out she's going to try to figure out her own life. A lot of this is coming down to decision making, right? These are all gifts that she has. So it's not like these are a problem. It's just when we can isolate and label these dilemmas, these three different parts of her, which is any triple split is going to have three. It's like you have three different parts of you. She's got this, cuddly, let's get warm and cozy and cuddle up and be intimate. And then there's this part of her, the super motorized powerhouse, adrenalized, move mountains being, get out of her way. This is a powerhouse definition with you don't always see this direct wiring. I find it's a little more rare to find this direct wiring from splenic manifestors, sure. You see splenic manifestors that way. You don't see as many manifesting generators that have this isolated route to the throat. And then we have this more mental part of her, which is always trying to make sense of what happened, channel of abstraction, trying to make sense of the past, figure out what happened yesterday, figure out what happened in my childhood, figure out what happened in that relationship or whatever, always trying to figure this out. But of course, this is meant to be an outer authority, not an inner authority. So that's just the definition itself. And then, of course, the openness. This is going to be such a major theme for her. Is this wide open G center. Looking for love, identity, direction, mostly looking for love and direction, looking for a relationship and a job and a place to live that feels good.
Just
And
minor things. It's fine.
yeah, just the little things in life. Um, and so yeah, this being her only open center and this being wide open, it's you know, it's also interesting that it's wide open. Wide open G centers can actually be like not exactly, but very reflector like in the sense that they play the role that needs to be played for the community. In our own HD community, Alok is a wide open G. Linda Bonnell is a wide open G. These are all two of the biggest HD people out there, and they're just holding the role that needs to be played for the community for, 30 years. So,
I feel like I have
so
all four, the mental projector, the manifester, the generator, and the reflector all in me at the same time, all screaming their own thing.
because yeah, your only conscious channel is the brainwave,
Hmm. It's going now,
projected
now.
projected channel. So, um, the point this is actually pretty complex. Um, there's a lot going on here. Identifying as a projector, the mind taking over, not knowing where to go. Um, all this all everything we've just looked at. So let's just keep it simple. I mean, do you want to add anything to that, to those dilemmas? Like, I mean, you said you can relate to being a mental projector or a projector or a reflector or a manifester but you're a generator. I mean, this kind of
Man,
manifesting sorry, let me interrupt you one second.
no, no, go
This
for it.
kind of I was saying there's variations of manifesting generators. In this kind of variation, when the sacral is not directly linked to the throat, what I would typically say is that Christine is an emotional generator with ego manifesting potential. It's more like manifesting potential. That's kind of how I would label that. Adrenalized ego manifesting potential. Um, so in this sense, because the strategy and the authority are all coming from the same place, this is the most important part of her. She
That's the
needs
part that just
to
wants to love on everybody.
everybody. That's the thing is
Everybody, yes.
everybody,
Uh-huh.
everybody and anybody.
Uh-huh.
And so it comes back to the simple. First of all, how's your process going of learning how to respond, being a generator? Do you have people in your life that can ask you questions so you can hear? You're an unconscious generator. It's not a technical term, but that's what you are. Your body, you're not going to know if you have the energy to bond with everybody. You know, you're gonna want to end up bonding with everybody, and you know making things happen, and then being a little confused about what happened the next day. And you were impulsive. That's the other thing. This
I
is
pat
going to.
myself on the back every day for keeping it together.
You've had your what?
I said I pat myself on the back every day for keeping it all together.
Mm-hmm.
The futility in
Well,
the 47.6 helps.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a big one for you, huh? Well, yeah. So yeah, my question was, how is the response mechanism going for you? Are you being asked? Are you entering into things correctly by being asked and then sleeping on it? Or
Probably not. I get it conceptually. I just haven't necessarily quite gotten it in my body yet, but I'm working on it.
Mhm. Anytime there's a triple split, you're always going to want to isolate or, recognize where the authority is, because these are like, one, two, three different parts of you, but this is it's the authority which kind of is the ringmaster. You know, the authority is what it's the authority. Everyone has to be obedient. Everyone meaning your mind and your massive energy have to be obedient to your process of waiting for clarity. So I mean, gosh, this is kind of you have kind of a fascinating design as we break that down to see
Why, thank
see
you.
the systems of all the places that can distract you from the simple.
Hmm.
Recognizing if you have the energy and the response and not being impulsive and learning to be patient and wait.
Which
That's going
goes
to be
really
your.
well with that 5720. Hmm.
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 Hmm. Yep. Yep. And this is conscious.
Uh-huh.
This kind of design, when you have a conscious spleen to throat but unconscious emotion, you're always going to think you know the answer in the moment. You're always you're always going to value. This is like a, especially with the pressure, being pressurized here, you're going to be pressurized to express your intuitive insights in the moment, to blurt things out to
You
the
don't
wrong
say.
people all the time. So it all comes down to the simple. I mean, um, yeah, learning and being emotional and learning how to, not learning, but just experimenting, practicing, riding your wave, not being impulsive, waiting for clarity. That's just that's just a time thing to get to know that about yourself.
Patients. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Patients are people in hospitals, so it's fine.
And it's probably going to be really uncomfortable at first because all this pressure saying be spontaneous, prove yourself. So learning to be comfortable, that's going to be getting into the nuances of how this feels inside your body, is learning to breathe through that pressure, learning to tell yourself this will be expressed at the right time, maybe when there's an invitation there, but first entering into things correctly. So that's the kind of idea of what we can look at here. Anybody want to add anything, or you can see so much just with these main areas of definition, the splits, the open centers. You don't need to look far. You don't need to look very far to see these dilemmas. And it's better to keep it simple. So you at least start with a simple. Then you can get into the nuances of all this stuff under the surface. So, um, well, great. Let's.
I appreciate
Oh, the
it. Thank
time.
you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so let's go do another one here. All right, Casey, do you feel like being our little guinea pig for the moment?
Sure. Hi.
I feel inspired to just ask, do you feel a dilemma in your life, or do you want me to talk things out a little bit first and then ask you that?
I don't really have a dilemma. I mean,
Let's find it then.
find my dilemma. Yes.
Okay. So same process. What first let's see, what is her type in strategy and authority. We have an emotional authority projector. So, and all of Casey's channels are projected channels. Community, prodigal, alpha, structuring, logic. These are all projected channels. So everything about Casey is about being recognized, being invited, recognizing herself first, recognizing the other, and being recognized by the other. It's so much. And so we have her other part of her split here. So we have a logical, doubting, unique thinker, structuring, leader. Which, even just talking that out, as I hear those words come out of my own mouth, she wants to, these are leadership channels. All the channels between the G center and the throat, they're leadership channels. It's the expression of direction. So either you are following someone or being followed. So there's a leadership element that just naturally ends up coming through here. It's your wiring. You can't hide your wiring. You can't deny your wiring. It's coming out of you, the expression of the direction of the self. She is this left angle cross with this 7 and 13. Okay, so here's another really another area that we can look and see where we might get thrown out or pulled, make our decisions from another place of ourselves. In this case, you know what? Let me finish the first thought I had because I tend to do that. Old brain injury. I always skip things around. So I was saying this is leadership. Casey's a guide. She's a projector. She's here to guide. So and all her channels are projected. There's an element of being recognized to guide other people, guide her community, help others, structure others. All this is outer authority. So she's here to help other people find the way forward with her leadership skills. Recognize where things aren't working in the pattern, first line, get to the bottom of things and to eliminate any insecurity so we can create a unique new structure to move forward and be a good leader. And so it's similar, there's a kind of just sort of blends into this community element, so it's her nodes. So she's gonna be in community, and she's going to automatically want to be a leader in community. And yet there's still this, there's going to be this pressure is going to want to take over where she feels like she has to, or she needs to. So the other thing I was going to say here was there's this very strong element of her incarnation cross. 7, 13, 23, 43. So based on to add to what I just said, there's all this 70% of who she is here. And this is her nodes. Now, just because someone has a nodal configuration that, in this opposition actually creates definition, just either way, just because this is a nodal configuration, it doesn't make this life force any less of a life force. it's still a life force. It's still her who she is. Still creating her emotional authority. Still creating basically who she is as an emotional projector. So that's not necessarily diminished by the fact that it's just coming from a nodal configuration, but I would say this really is going to add a pressure. It's going to add a certain kind of pressure to wanting to make her decisions from this part of herself. Before I go on, Casey, do you want to add, interject, clarify anything about what I've been saying so far?
Spot on. So far, so good. Yep. Sounds exactly like me.
Now, can you talk to us more about that? Kind of what I was trying to vocalize about, you know, this is projected, this is projected. I mean, this is all about community.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be, which is great for, a projector with a channel of community. Great. You've got your people that you're 5-1, you're transpersonal, you're universalizing, this is great. But it's going to kind of, what I'm saying, kind of get blended in and almost there's a lot of similarity here in terms of this. It's all projected. You're going to want to be a leader to your community. So it's just kind of, it can be elusive. Are you able to discover and, what do I call this class? You know, label what this part of you is and how, even though it's still part of your gift, if you're putting that part of your split, emphasizing that part of your split, then do you see where that kind of take over, or do you see it coming through in the bridges?
Yeah, the
In the
bridges is where I
12?
really get lost in the most. I'd say before human design, I was very much, yeah, like between the head and the mind and the body, there was just like no connection. I didn't even understand really like the body. Like I had no connection to my body really. And
Mhm.
I was really in my head. And yeah, I always felt like I needed to like be the one or it wasn't going to get done, kind of person. And so
Be the
I,
one to kind of take control and be the leader and make things, and kind of try to manifest something here.
um
Is that what you mean by you always felt like you had
actually
to
I
be the
didn't
one?
ever really want to be the leader, which was funny. I was like always like adults need to take care of themselves. Like y'all are like I would with kids, I was always like, yeah, I can help. We can do these things. But like if I had a job or something, I didn't want to be like the boss or the manager or like anything around that because it was just like I knew it was just too much pressure. But I would always be like from behind. So if you see my moon 22.1, that's actually called the second class ticket. So you're like the second in command. So I would be the person that would be like, working with the manager so they could make the decisions, but I didn't have to be the one with the fall guy. Right.
I mean,
And so,
that's very much what the alpha is like. It's kind of the reluctant leader, or sometimes the like you're saying, the leader behind the voice speaking in the ear of the the puppet or whatever the other leader is.
but master. Yeah, I mean, kind of, but yeah, I mean, ever since I was even a little girl, I would help my dad with his business. I'd help my mom with her stuff, like I'd always be the person to like guide and lead and take on projects and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I
where
mean
your
that's
question
what
is
the
about the connection between the two of where I really can get disconnected between my emotional body and oh, I didn't see what Jonah said, but yeah, my emotional body and my mind. My mind was very much in control. I really I've done a lot of work in my body and my emotions with human design, just understanding. I think for me, with being such a logical person, I had to really understand the mechanics of all of this before I could like accept that this was actually happening to me. And then my nodes with the 47, but the third line is really where I get yes, there's like a community aspect, but there's also been a lot of struggle in community, and learning who I am and how to externalize in community has been a big theme of my life. Since I've moved into the 40.3 node, it's gotten a lot easier, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it seems like one of the dilemmas. This incarnation cross is the cross of masks. And you know, 5-1 on the cross of masks kind of has this, oh, there's this thing that happens because the mask element is about basically stepping in and playing, playing that leadership role that needs to be played when putting on a mask, for better or worse. There's nothing wrong with putting on a mask to play the role that needs to be played for getting things done. So,
It's such
when
an
it comes to
interesting cross. I really look at it as like requiring to put on different hats. I've always called it as hats. Like I put on different hats with different things. But it helps me to assimilate myself a little easier. And yeah, it's like a hiding aspect, but it's more of like I call it like a spy aspect. But it also helps me to like see people better, because I can come in kind of unassuming, and then like people feel comfortable around me, and then they reveal themselves to me. They can share their heart. I'm the listener that can guide them then, because I can like match their energy really well. I guess that's the right way.
hmm hmm and there's this whole element of the projection field. I mean, what I've seen here is people, they get suspicious of you because they think they you stepped in as a leader, put on that hat or that mask when it was necessary, but then they start to assume you're going to do that again. They project upon you again that you're going to try to, take the throne or whatever. So, um, at least I've seen that with another 5-1 cross of masks in my life. Um, so yeah, so we can see this. So there's just a relationship to the correct role of being a leader in community. It is your gift. It's just, coming back to the simple is really being invited, not stepping in until there's a clear invitation there, and then waiting to see if it's the right invitation or not. I'm sure just that simple process of not jumping into any leadership role in community, which can be probably enticing, because you're so waiting to be recognized. You're, got to be patient, 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 patient. So when the invitations come, I'm sure it could be easy to be spontaneous or impulsive, and then maybe it wasn't the right environment. Have you found that you jumped into leadership roles when you should have waited?
Hmm. I don't know. I always never really look at anything as a mistake. It's like always like, well, I learned from that. I learned from that. But anyway, like even burnings, I'm like, oh, well, I always tend to be better afterwards and grow. And I'm always placed into I feel really divinely guided and protected. So I don't really worry too much. Now I know to pay attention more to the invitation. And it's all about, because I have both ears, 5722. I'm listening for what they're saying about me, what the frequency of their tone is. It's just like, it's even in text, I can feel it. It's like there's a invitation frequency that I can feel now. And so even if their words are like, hey, I invite you to do something, it's like, but is that, you know, and I like the rule of 3 for the emotional projectors is like the first time they ask me, they're kind of just like throwing the idea out there. Like, okay, someone asked me on a date and they're just like, hey, you wanna, and I'm like, and then the next time they're like, no, really. And I'm like, and then the third time they're like, okay, this day, this time. And I'm like, okay. And by then I've like processed it. It feels good or not, you know? And so, yeah, there's like a third rules that I feel comfortable with. But I've also taken an invitation right away. It depends on if I've processed it already, if I've already thought about it, if I've already kind of felt into what it could be like and like been planning for it and thinking about it. And so when it came, I was like ready to say yes. So it's like, it just depends, you know?
Mhm. It sounds like from hearing you talk it out that, when I was trying to kind of name these two different parts of you, these sound like they're pretty integrated. So I would, if this was a process I was doing with someone to, you know, to to figure out where your dilemma is, I would keep going, and I would kind of go focus in a little more either on probably these splits. Definitely will. What are the places that are favoring everything except the best part of ourselves, where we're here to make decisions? So, the 25, the 12, um, trying to impact, or trying to manifest, trying to be a manifester, or trying to.
Also be a manifester.
Oh, yep, yep. Yeah, that would be that pathway too. Um, I mean, and we all have that potential conditioning to, make things happen now. But I'm seeing that at 25, wanting to, um, yeah, some kind of mystical oneness. Everything's all one. It's all good. I'm divinely guided. It's all gonna work out. It's all, or
And it's true. That's the messed up part is that like I could see that effect in my life. And it's like, okay, is it not self or is it true? I don't know. But like I definitely feel, like I said, divinely guided and that it's all just gonna work out. And that 51 is really where I've been, and the 22 is really kind of like, you know, thinking about the responsibility of those two elements. It
is
helps me to balance out the other side of it, I guess you could say.
mhm. Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, another way to say it is when there's a simple split, you could just say you're putting the pressure on yourself to feel like you need to have that. You feel this pressure on yourself that you need to be the shaman or the priestess or the mystic, you know? And maybe, and here you are in community, community, family, maybe this pressure to make things spiritual, which is okay. There's a spectrum to everything. There's a beauty to everything too. I mean, it depends on where we look at it from, but I don't know. I'm just kind of playing. I'm playing with you. We could,
No, I totally,
maybe
it's
it's like,
definitely, it's an interesting split to have. It's a weird kind of like, but it's true, but it's like, where do I, like, what is, finding the truth in that one has been interesting for me. So,
mhm. It's like, say the house is messy, the kids are making a mess in the house, and this kicks in and goes, it's all good. They're just being children, as long as I love them. When it's really like, no, guys, clean up your room. There's no one's going out or doing anything until you clean up your room. But this pressure to feel like, oh, I need to be spiritual. I need to be it's all good. It's all the one leader kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of playing with that.
mm.
Anyway, um, It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and it's not a problem because you're I mean, you wrote a book on emotional authority. So if anyone, you're the authority here on recognizing clarity, you know, the power of clarity, the power of feeling what you really need to feel.
Yeah,
We
because I
can
was so I was so disjointed from my body. I didn't, and so like finding that, I'm like, people need to know. Like people need to, like I need to like the like I need to for externalization just and like and then the invitations to do so, I was just like, it just came out. So I wouldn't consider myself an authority on it. I just saw like a need for it and decided to create it. That's like the manifestation thing of like, oh, there's this thing that needs to like people can use and I'm going to make it. And I did it. That's kind of and it's like, was it not self? Was it correct? I don't know. Like it's just done. Right. And so, yeah.
Nathan's asking, would I look at the resonant lines in those bridges? You know, like you have a 51-6, so he's saying, would I look at the 25-6? You have a 22-1, so would I look at the 12-1? You could play with it. I think I'm a fan of the simple, so I would just start with the basic and just say, hey, is there something here that's about, the 25, about, universal love, or something about feeling like I need to speak up or manifest? I'd look at that first. Yeah, I could look at what's a cell 51-6. Yeah, ignorant monk. Yeah, the 12-1 is the monk. Yeah, you can look at it. For me, that might start getting a little bit mental, but you have to, that's for Casey to see, is that in her life? The 12-1 is one of the gates of aloneness, so does, so maybe does she feel like she needs to put a pressure on herself to be alone? I don't know. I don't necessarily see that because this is such a strong part of her authority plus her nodes. It's she's gonna be around people. Nancy always offering something profound. 25-6, innocence and light and love. Yeah. Yeah, just kind of defaulting to that 6 line. Yeah, the universal love, and then the 6 line kind of, you know, innocent, it all just is what it is, whatever. Yeah. Um, Yeah, that kind of jumps out at me. Sure. So anyway, we're not trying to put anyone too on the spot here.
Yeah, I think
Fix.
it's great. I mean, it's good, and I think it's a good challenge. So I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, this is really just meant to be inspiring to see, like, when you look at a design, it's you don't just see you don't it's not a given. It's like, what are all the places that are keeping Casey, for example, from being in touch with her feelings and her emotions in her process of waiting for clarity as the most sound way for her to make decisions.
You, Peter.
Yeah, thanks. All right, let's see if we can do two more here. I think we have Sirach and Pockets here too. So let's see if we can do you guys. All
Hello.
right. Hello, brother. Okay. Would you like to tell us, do you feel, just in general, human design aside, is there a dilemma that you feel in your world, in your life? Do you
Yeah, there's quite
recognize
a few
something like
actually.
that?
One is that I'm looking into I've just started listening to Abraham Hicks quite a bit, and that's very much about manifestation, but more in a passive way, which sort of does align with the human design stuff where I'm waiting to respond. But then it's also like because of my like undefined G and will and and solar plexus, all the things that I'm wanting, I don't actually know if they're necessary or if I need to even want things in the first place. Like, um, as in like I don't know if, because like the things that I want, I know that I don't know if I actually want them or not. I know that they're actually like they might not be the things that I actually want because I don't know what I want. I have to wait till I respond to the thing that I want, and my body will tell me what I want. But then there's also the dilemma of like, well, I've responded to things in the past and I've like experienced things that I don't want, so that makes me know a bit more what I do want, which is the whole thing about the Abraham Hicks thing. So I guess my dilemma is um I'm noticing that I'm fixated on finding love and direction and proving myself a lot less so than before, and I still avoid confrontation, but yeah, like the I also find a lot of comfort in listening to Abraham Hicks stuff because I don't know, I guess for my head it helps to fill my brain with things that are positive because it's really easy to be bogged down in the not a lot of people in my life are really into human design. Not a lot of people in my life are really into anything super esoteric, and I have like a channel of esotericism. So it's really important for me to really be around that. Um, so I guess yeah, the dilemma is just general haphazard thinking, I guess. That was really
Mhm,
roundabout.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Well, I like that you mentioned your G center. It would make me want, I mean, these three centers here, these three centers in the conditioning hierarchy are come in first, are the top three. So we have number one, two, three. Um, so there's a real depth of conditioning here. So I would really definitely would focus on that, especially this being wide open. So just to keynote the not self, always trying to prove yourself to the emotionally needy people in your life who really don't feel good to you in the first place. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, pushing yourself really hard to be valued through your ability to be a peacemaker when really it just doesn't feel good. Wrong place, wrong people.
Mm.
So there's that.
Oh, I have
But in
another.
this,
Oh, sorry. No,
oh yeah, do you want to add something?
Yeah, well, I was also okay, for the last couple of nights, I found it really difficult to go to sleep, 'cause I haven't responded to sleeping, and I've just sort of been up, and I've like been really busy, and I know that I should just be going to bed when I'm exhausted, but I haven't really been exhausted, but I'm still really tired because I haven't slept, so I'm like that's also a dilemma that I just remembered that, but I think that
Okay.
may have something to do with the moon situation, so yeah, anyway, so keep going.
Okay. Uh, well, that's how kind of sleeping, sleeping habits as a generator. Yeah, I mean, you you need to first of all you need to it's not about responding to sleep as much as finding what you respond to in the first place so you can exhaust yourself doing what you love doing. If you don't know what you love doing, there's going to be this almost like stagnant energy where it just never feels like it gets out, or and then it's might create kind of insomnia kind of feeling. But that could be a million things going on really.
Mm.
But what I wanted to look at here was this kind of configuration also, where there's, see you, Nathan, um, and see your pockets, where you see, yeah, especially these format channels down here, and then all this, and then just a strong mental activation. It's there's more going on than just there's three channels going on down here. So so we have the part of Sirach, which is this deeply logical. Yeah, this is all, he's a cross of service. Okay, so look, he's got the 952, the 1858, and the 1762, and he's a cross of service, which is the most logical cross. All four, all four arms are in the logical circuitry. So right there is probably the biggest and simplest dilemma that we could isolate. This Sirach struggles with doubt, doubting himself, doubting he's with the right people, doubting he did good enough, doubting he fixed everyone else's problems. You know, I mean, logic and understanding, the understanding circuitry comes with all doubt, because doubt is the way that we question if the pattern is correct. So it's you know, doubt serves a purpose. It serves a very valuable purpose to keep us safe. And let's see, where did that all go? Okay, and but also deeply individual, and in individuality, you know, these partially conscious individual and excuse me, format and pressure, you know, this awareness and mutation, they're on and they're off. So probably a lot of the times they're going to be off. And there's a little bit, but very little tribal circuitry. He's got two unconscious. Oh, he's got three unconscious hanging gates in the tribal circuitry. So for whatever that's worth. Very logical and individual. And he's going to put the emphasis on his mind, you know, trying to structure his logical minded opinions, trying to structure other people, probably without being asked. It's projected. I'm just talking it out, talking out all the potential things we could see here. So the thing is, when you're very logical and you are when you're very logical and a generator, it's that doubt which gets you to quit. You know, we say generators are the great quitters because you get, well, I mean, yeah, with these two format channels, especially if he enters into something from his mind because he thinks he has the energy, because he thinks he should fix that, because he thinks he can prove himself to these people or whatever, he's just going to get frustrated and quit.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, also because his creativity, he might enter into something correctly, but then the impulse might be off too. The mutation might be off. So he entered into something correctly, but there's no creative energy coming through, which is part of his gift. So let's see, how would I resolve this dilemma? Does any of this resonate with what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes, so much of it resonates. Pretty much like all of it resonates actually, yeah. Like all of it. It's great. Thank you. Oh, by the way, would you say 360 is like creative energy? Is that like that's the keynote, isn't it?
yeah, it's kind of, it's the root, it's the format energy of the individual circuitry. So, you know, it formats everything else in your design with this pulse of creativity or melancholy. It's either in the, you know, a lot of times we focus on like the depressive side of this. This can be very depressive because if we try to force things to happen when there's no energy there, you know, these are two motors. These are two very primal life force motors, and when you try to force your energy into, you know, the mind, trying to tell you to do things when you don't really have the energy for it, it's just all it's gonna backfire inside of you. But when you enter into things correctly, starting with stillness at the beginning, waiting for the creative pulse. This is the process. I feel like these formats are just so important because this is stillness at the beginning. 52. Even though you respond to something correctly, you can't just hit the ground running. You need to see the blueprint. You need to see the pattern. You need to see, the logical steps that need to be taken, and do one step at a time. And wait till the energy's there. Because also when this is off, it feels very empty. It feels very, difficulty at the beginning. It feels, mutation has a ton of creative energy, but it's either on or off. And when it's off, it just feels confusing. It's one of the names here. Third gate is called ordering, but it also has this keynote of confusion, because until you feel that creative pulse that's on, and you probably know what that feels like, but it might be once every 4.5 months. Once every 4.5 months, you get this huge creative pulse, and boom, look out. If you do all those steps creatively and respond to it at the right time. So when it's off, it just feels like, what's the way forward when there's no creative energy? But it's just about letting it kind of bubble up at the right time, and not letting this take over in those times where it's the pattern still kind of being revealed to you, or the logical process is still kind of, the creative energy is still kind of off. I see that especially with mutation, especially with this configuration, when there's mutation, but then there's this wide split to a mental stuff. This always takes over. And you can just feel like life is pointless, or fear of having your opinions challenged, or trying to figure out your own life. Even just keep turning it to the most simple thing is trying to let this be an inner authority, trying to figure out your life right now. 6124 gets very fixated, super fixated on trying to figure out the answers right now. And this is saying, this is a process. So I think that's your biggest dilemma, is your mind is going, I need to know now. I need to structure it right now. This is also individual and logical. But here's the other individual and logical part going, I'll know when I know. I'll take the next step. I take the next step. As much as I feel this pressure to figure it out right now. This one's a doozy. This one, come on, figure it out now. Well, it's not the right time. But why is it not the right time? Well, what do I need to do right now to figure it out right now? Like, it'll happen when it happens. So this being your splenic sacral generator, again, it comes back to the simple. Be asked. Have someone ask you questions. Sirach, is this the right time to figure it out? Sirach, do you really have the energy for this right now? Do you have the money for this right now? Whatever, and I think that's just going to be really helpful, is coming back to the simple, learning how to respond as a generator, which means being asked. Wherever your friend went, Andrew, have him ask you some questions.
I will be that person for you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, there he is. Cool. All right. Well, we're kind of, pockets had to leave, and that's the charts I have. And let's see, there was a bunch of stuff in the thread here. I think I missed some things. So if anyone wants to add anything about any of these charts or insights from today, I can take 10 more minutes if anyone wants to add anything.
I just like to say thank you very much. I really enjoyed hearing your reflections on the chart. It's very, very wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, in summary, it's like, don't get caught up in the dilemma. That's what we end up, that's what the not self loves to do. The not self mind is going to love to fixate on it. But find it. You have to find it and then use that as inspiration to come back to the simple.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What's in your view, what's the so I have my design is a splenic projector. Not saying that I am a splenic projector, obviously, but I find that my body is a lot more tired than a lot of people. And I think that might be because my body is also a fourth line. I have a lot less sort of up and atom energy when I don't have it. Like I'm very, very tired when I am very tired. And the tiredness sort of stays for a long time. Like, is that I guess that itself is a statement, but it's also a question in the confusion around it.
Sure. I am just taking a quick peek here. Well, the first thing that jumps out at me is your personality sun. You are the 52 is called restraint. Stillness at the beginning. It's a little bit, even though it's connected into this generator channel, it is very generatory in the sense of one step at a time. We're not going to skip any steps. We're going to take one step at a time. So 52s, you're born in the gate of stillness. And you're a hermit. Let's see. And in detriment, the pressure to selfishly restrain energy at the expense of others. So and there's a correctness to that for you. So you need time alone as a hermit to be still. That's just because you're a generator, you don't have the 34, you don't have the 29, there's different kinds of generators. You can be a very intentional, step by step, move at your own pace generator, tortoise and the hare. You can be the tortoise generator. That's kind of how I see it. But I mean, tiredness is another thing. I mean, tiredness might just be, maybe you're trying to do more than maybe you need more stillness. If you're trying to push these motors faster than they, 2.5 format channels. There's a little bit of a denseness here. There's a little bit of a, you got to move at your own pace. And if your own pace is tortoise, then that's your path. And not try to compare it to anybody else.
I have two comments as well, if I can chime in.
Yeah. Sure.
I wanted to read Nancy's comment out loud, but first I just wanted to comment on tiredness, that, there's different kinds of tiredness, and just like feeling is found in many different places, not just in the solar plexus. There's feeling affronted in the ego and feeling lost in the G center and so on. That tiredness, there can be mental exhaustion and so on. But I also wanted to just mention with logic that logic it uses a lot of energy, and it's hard to get the energy for logic. Like with the experiential, you can be on a trip and somehow have all these energy reserves. And it's like, where did all this come from? Simply because the new experience is giving you energy. And after that experience, you might need a week to rest. But with logic, it very much is starved for energy, both literally and figuratively. So, I mean, obviously, having that 952 format channel, needing a lot of protein, that's something Martin Grassinger has talked about, and just needing to replenish that energy from, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is you might even be burning more calories than most people when you're interacting because that logic is constantly analyzing so much, it's working so much. So yeah, just needing to rest and so on. And then I just wanted to read Nancy's comment here, which was heavy nodal pressure, which I love that. First of all, just kind of mentioning that 61 as well as gate 60 in the nodes. Heavy nodal pressure on seeking mental stimulation and mystical truth to transcend limitation, while cross of service and root pressure to submissively logically focused on future improvement, confused with on-off individual unpredictability. So yeah, that 360 and that 6124, both adding in the melancholy and just the need to really understand the on-off thing, that those days that you might be experiencing as tired are also potentially tiredness is a form of melancholy that it can take. You know, it doesn't necessarily always come across. It can just be not being in the mood to do much, or not being in the mood to keep working on things, to keep working on that logic, because that logic is getting kind of interfered with by the individual circuitry. So
Whoa.
Being so
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, literally.
Wonderful. Great input, everybody. Well, I think that's great for today. I think that's a great first run. We'll see how this evolves. We'll see what else we can see in a few runs of this. Maybe this will evolve into something else. But I think this would be fun to look at for a few sessions. So we'll
yeah,
take it
I
one
really
at a
loved
time.
this. I also just really quick, I know people have to get going, but I wanted to read Nancy's other comment I just noticed, just because, you know, these these comments, you know, can get lost in the chat. But she said, with both 6124 and 63, but no defined G, missing 14 and 1, quote, I knew and I had got it, but I don't know where's the resource to go from here, and how shall I express it uniquely to let others get what I knew? Being the second line individual who's interested in my truth, which might mean nothing to others. Depressing that no one is interested in what I know. And then she also commented that tiredness could be a signpost that nothing needs to happen until it happens. And yeah, that's kind of what I was saying too. When that melancholy clicks in, that can be it. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for this, Peter. Really, really wonderful session. And I look forward to the next one. And really great getting to know people's charts better here. I mean, part of Signpost is that it is a community, and to be a community, we all have to get to know each other. And this was a really great practice in that. I feel like I know you better, and I also know the volunteers who showed their charts today, and it's just really nice. So I'd like to do more of these. Really good.
Great. Yeah, so send your charts over for next time. Anyone else who's in the background there, and we'll give everyone an opportunity. All right, thanks, Jonah. Thank you for putting this all together. This is awesome, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy your day. I think Brandy's on in 45 minutes for her thing, so we'll see you then. All right, bye for now.